good afternoon to everyone. Hi and welcome. For those of you that have been with us all week, thank you. Hope you enjoyed all the programming and all the discussions that we've had. And for those of you that are new today, welcome. We're glad to have you. I'm Sarah Armstrong, SVP Client Solutions at Dentsu. And on behalf of Kate, Helen, and I wanted to wish you a warm welcome and say hello and welcome to day 5. Wow, 5. We were just talking in the green room about what a week it's been. This conversation we're going to have today is a reflective look back at all of those really thought-provoking and inspiring conversations that we've had over the past week. And most importantly, we'll explore the road together and set some inspiration for the future. And as we said, continue the conversation and really all go off on our own paths, but come back together to keep that conversation flowing. We've got a stellar panel today and I'm super, super excited. So I won't take too long through the housekeeping. Just quickly, we are recording. So everything's being recorded, and at the conclusion of the conference, we'll send an email with all the links to everyone. So you can go back and peruse at your leisure. The Q&A feature is active for our speakers and panels. So please do submit and we'll do our best to respond to all. Kate will be moderating throughout. If we are unable to get to them, we'll connect via email and make sure you get the answer that you need. The chat is open and live. Please use it. We'd love to have you putting your comments and thoughts in there. And finally, there is a mentorship program that's being run on behalf of Dentsu. So if you're a female founder and you're interested in taking part, please reach out to either Kate or I, and we'll make sure that you get that application and we can connect you with some other women in the industry that can help guide you. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Helen and Simran, who are going to launch into our panel. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Kate and Sarah. This has been an amazing week. It's been a full week, I will say, but there's been so many great voices, insights from the beginning where we were just talking about what it meant to have this week after a year of being under COVID. And what it means to live in a post-COVID world, what it means for women, what it means for our lives and our future of work, and where we're at in day 2 was amazing talking about that. Wednesday was talking about what it meant to be a founder. And I think from the whole week, I've noticed that there's a lot of challenges that we're facing. There's numerous challenges for different parts of our lives, and also the different stages of our lives, but also what it means to be a woman from a diverse background. There's been a lot of insights that we've gotten, and I'm really excited to talk about kind of a recap of today with some of our presenters and some new panelists that are joining us. I'll be working on this panel with Simran. So between me and Simran, we're going to really want to bring out as much knowledge as possible. I'm pretty excited about that. So I wanted to do kind of an intro. Everyone knows me. I'm the co-founder of Odea.ai. And I wanted to pass it off to Simran to introduce herself, and then we can go around and introduce the panelists again. So we make sure that everyone's not, anyone who didn't miss, who's missed the week can know everyone who's on the panel today.
Thank you so much, Helen. I'm very happy to be here today. Hopefully, wherever you're calling in from, it's starting to get warmer and sunnier. It is in Toronto, that's for sure. I hope you can see it in my backdrop here. I work very closely with Sarah and Kate and the Dentsu family, helping to develop new products and solutions for our clients. And when I was asked if I would participate in helping to host a panel to bring FemaleFoundry to life in Canada, I jumped at the opportunity, but I'm also, happy to participate as a mentor and also as a learner. So, I'll be here asking a bunch of questions of these 3 fabulous ladies, but, ears and eyes open. This really is the intent to create a dialogue amongst us and a safe space to explore some topics that will inevitably be uncomfortable, but have to be discussed, and other topics that are going to be designed to bring about inspiration and excitement. So I think now we're going to kick off with a few quick intros. So I'm going to throw it to Marissa. We're going to give you 60 seconds, Marissa. Give us your high level, who you are, what's the company that you founded, and why are you excited about today?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Simran, 60 seconds. I love it. I'm the founder and CEO of Shot of Gold Turmeric Blends. I was inspired to start this business after living in India for 6 years. I used to work in media in New York, went to India, fell in love with India, started my first 2 businesses. Now I'm back in Toronto. Last year, almost exactly on this day, 2 weeks less this day, I started an interview series for women. I said, we need to start talking about how hard it is to be a woman entrepreneur. And a year later, I'm the founder of a nonprofit and a national initiative called We Are Women. We launched on International Women's Day. We'll talk about it more. I'm very bad at counting time, so I'll just say thank you. And thank you so much to everyone else that's participating. It's really great to be here.
Thank you. Thanks for being with us, Marissa. Takara, you joined us earlier this week. You're back again. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand you the mic. Give us your intro. Who are you? Why are you excited to be here today?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Takara Small. Pretty much for a living, I talk about technology on CBC, morning radio, late night news, and I'm also the founder of an organization called Venture Kids. It's a nonprofit, and we teach youth from underserved communities how to code and launch a business for free. I was here earlier in the week. Such a pleasure to be back. I'm really excited to be here and talk about, as you mentioned, all the important topics, but also want to add that I am also one of the individuals that will be volunteering their time to mentor young women. So if any of you are watching or listening, I really hopefully look forward to either mentoring you or at least chatting with you in the near future about how I can assist you.
Take advantage of these brains, listeners. And last but absolutely not least, Kashana, over to you. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Kishana. I'm the executive director and founder of Toronto Women X in Data Science. We have a bold goal to help 1 million women become data literate. We have programming for the whole year, starting off with our conference that's in April. And I'm also a recently published poetry author.
I might have to toss a poetry question in there, Helen. I've already.
I know you got to. You have to, because Simran is also a very talented writer, and she's also working on her own work. So I think there has to be some kind of connection. Also, Kishana, I really want to put, please put in the chat, and also for everyone, always share with in the chat also your organizations, what you're selling. We need to promote this, and we'll tweet it out as well, because we have to do that. We have to do it because we want to promote you. So I think before Simran's idea of a question about poetry, I'd like to hear, and we can start, I'll stick with you, Kashana, is what have been the highs and lows of your founder story? What's been a really great, let's start with a low. What's a very low? Like what is, let's start the negative so we can end with the high.
Okay, because I was like the positive, I'd love to start there.
Yeah.
We can start with the lows. So the lows I would say would definitely have been last year. So for last year's conference, we literally had our conference maybe 4 or 5 days before the city shut down. So it was a very interesting time. We didn't have enough funding, so I had to put in my own money to fund the conference because I completely believe in the mission. So my bonus and some of my savings, I just put into the company, and we're actually still kind of trying to rebound from the lack of funding that we had. A high would be the year, no, I think the high is happening right now, to be honest. I think the fact that everything is virtual, at first we were like, oh my gosh, it's virtual, what are we gonna do? And we were sitting ducks for a little bit, but I don't think we were exactly sitting ducks. We were observing to kind of see what is the best way to re-engage with our audience and what are the opportunities, which now, since we're allowed to do virtual events, the reach is farther now, right? So that means that diversifying the audience and also the speakers that we have is much easier because we're not limited to a talent pool that's localized in the GTA. So I would say that's the most exciting part. And also the fact that we decided that we're not just going to do the conference every year, we're expanding the programming to be for the whole year. So we have the conference, we're launching a job board, we have online courses that we're launching, and also a fellowship program that will help women actually get hands-on skills for their portfolios to help them secure long-term employment. So I think the exciting part is now.
I know, and I'm looking forward to April. So I'm really looking forward to your conference. And I think that I know it's been a really hard journey, but you've done such an amazing job. And the content I'm seeing being developed for April, everyone has to like attend. So we're going to promote that as well. Um, yeah, this has given us an opportunity. The low that you said about, that it's not, we can be global now. We could totally get our voices out there and be global. Marissa, what is your lows and highs? What did you learn from last year, especially starting something during a pandemic?
Thanks, Helen. And also, Kashana, congratulations. That's so incredible. Well done you, and well done everyone on your team. That's really cool. And I can't wait to see more. Helen, to answer your question, as a three-time entrepreneur, many highs and many lows. I think that Instagram meme of a roller coaster, or like what people think success looks like and then what it actually looks like, is too true. With Shot of Gold, it's in the CPG industry, which is very competitive. It's male dominated. I mean, most industries, unfortunately, are still male dominated, but not for long. And there's so much capital involved to create and launch a brand sometimes. And so over the last few years, frankly, many lows, from huge manufacturing problems, going in the red many times. And also, this is for me, and I know it's true for other entrepreneurs, you hear no every single day, all day long. You can't take it personally. You have to be your own cheerleader. And on some days, and at some times, it is very hard. And so I think that can be a low. Sometimes everything feels like it's going wrong. And often when it feels like that, the right is just around the corner. And so to keep going is important. And I have to say, COVID has created one of my biggest highs. I have got to connect with so many women like yourselves. I think the internet has really made that possible. Thank you, Zoom. I wish I had invested 1.5 years ago. Let's talk about women's financial literacy next time. And yeah, I'm grateful. And I think as an entrepreneur, to connect with other women especially will lead you to your highest high. When we come together and we help each other, I think that's how we all succeed.
I think you're the I don't know how many women I've talked this week, and even we'll talk to some women this weekend around financial literacy. So the idea that I think this this year gave a lot of perspective around our finances are a major issue, of course, and that ups and downs they were talking about, going into red, trying to figure out how to make more money, and how to, or even just get a new job. A lot of people had gone to furloughed and had done that, is a major issue, I think. And speaking to women who saying, I just invested for the first time, which is very exciting. And I think there needs, maybe that's another panel totally, but I'd love to see how that education around finances is changing, because we need an education there. I totally understand the need to invest.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. And just as a quick follow-up, I think too, for underrepresented women, in my experience, my limited experience thus far, that is even more true. So through my organization, We Are Women, we have an Indigenous partner. And, we featured a number of Indigenous women in our most recent activation. Many of them will go into debt. They will not look for a loan. They will self-finance. Whereas if you were to look, pardon me for being frank, at a white male, they're going to look for investors, angel, and they expect it also. And so why, as women, this is what I just heard from Kashana, I've done this myself dozens of times. I know it's true for women the world over. We self-fund something when we could go out there and have it funded. Why do we keep doing that? And it's definitely on my to-do list this year to become more financially literate and to help others do that. And I will be asking for help in that as well.
Yeah, I think the education around that debt is a financial vehicle towards something is something we need to think about. That this is a vehicle this is something we need to use to build something else from, is really being important. So I think that there's something there. And yeah, I'd love to have a further conversation, but we'll take that to another conference. I think that's what we'll do. Takara, I watch you all the time. I know this sounds a bit creepy now when I think about when I say it that way. Um, I see your highs, but I want to kind of know a little bit your lows. How do you get through? You're such a resilient person. I just kind of want to, you could break away a little bit and say, yeah, I've had some lows, and this is what I'm doing to make it work.
Yeah, I think there have definitely been some lows as a founder, and honestly, like as a journalist during COVID, which was a really, really challenging time, especially still working and going into the field during a time when most people were in lockdown. It's so interesting. You know, we were talking about financial literacy because Venture Kids actually has an entire session dedicated to financial literacy for young people. And we also this year will launch a fund to provide students with some startup capital so they can create their own business without having to go into debt to see their dreams become a reality, which for people from underserved communities and those living at or below the poverty line can be the difference between paying their lights and buying food and potential multi-million-dollar business later in life. But the lows I'd say as a founder this year were just that when we went into lockdown, the need for our services and the demand really outstripped what we've ever seen before in the past. We provide free education, free coding, free financial literacy, free cybersecurity courses, free design courses, and we also provide food. And when we went into lockdown, there were so many people who lost their jobs who fell into perhaps a low income designation. And then on top of that, so many kids were learning at home and they were perhaps not receiving the best type of support. So we had to provide laptops for students. We used to provide food in person, but we worked with a local Toronto company to have food delivered, contactless drop-offs at people's houses, and still provide free services. So it was definitely challenging, a lot of sleepless nights that made that possible. But we decided this is when the community needs us the most. We can't just step back in any way. I'd say dealing with that, I think really focusing on the mission is the best way to get through like some of those challenging times. It really makes a difference when you attend a class and you see a 16-year-old girl from Scarborough who never thought about entrepreneurship, and she's come up with a business plan and she's working on a website to represent that business plan. It keeps you going, because I think if we want to see real change, it's small acts every day, not one huge giant gesture that I feel like can have the most impact later in life. And then some of the highs, I'd say were, again, COVID related. We normally would work with students in rural Ontario and in some of the major cities in person, but because of COVID, we were able to reach Canadians from coast to coast. And it's really opened up a lot of different people to what we offer and provide, and really inspired an initiative that we are launching a little later this month called Inspire, where we're actually having youth from different backgrounds and women learn how to become Wikipedia editors so they can create actual pages for Canadian women in BIPOC and STEM who are under-recognized but should have that spotlight on them. So we're diversifying the world's biggest online encyclopedia, and at the same time giving these people the recognition they deserve. So that definitively came out of COVID, with people saying, I don't see online anyone who looks like myself. So again, COVID, some deep lows, not gonna sugarcoat it, some deep lows, but also some incredible highs as well.
I love that. Let's flip the terror of the last year and talk about how it's accelerating business and women. So thank you for those stories. And I also love the phrase you just said, that small acts create change. And sometimes we get so overwhelmed with these significant leaps that we feel pressure from ourselves or either from society to make, that we can do it incrementally and still be able to make amazing change. I want to switch gears and talk about this concept of mentorship and sponsorship. There's recent studies that show, women in professions and in the workplace often over-index or are submitted and over-index in programs that focus only on mentorship. And there isn't as much opportunity for sponsorship. And this is true for all races, but it's particularly prevalent for women of color, where they don't have the same access to sponsorship. As three women who are outside of the corporate world, can you talk about how either mentorship or sponsorship has played a role? And even as each of you are sort of now falling into this category of being leaders. Takara, you mentioned also becoming a mentor of this program. How's it important? How can we help women become and feel more empowered to even ask for it when it's not offered? Takara, I'll start with you. Since you mentioned it at the top, can you give us some sense of what's your perspective on this topic?
Yeah, I feel if you don't work in a corporate environment, which for a lot of women entrepreneurs is the case, it can be challenging to find mentors or sponsors. But I think, if, the overall general Canadian tech community is invested in and interested in change, that's where I think some of the really great opportunities can come from. Some of the mentors that I in my professional and career have had the pleasure of working with are people who don't work in the same sector as me at all, but they've offered up their time to share their anecdotes, their stories, their life lessons. So I think mentorship and sponsorship definitely have to go hand in hand. You can't mentor someone without advocating for them as well if you really want to see change. But I think there's so much opportunity for that type of assistance in programs like Foundry that's mentioned, and also just sort of unofficial groups that exist online as well. And right now, because we're all at home during COVID, it's a really great time to reach out through LinkedIn or other social channels and expand your network with other like-minded women and men.
I love that. Like, it's also the access that the internet provides, which we're now sort of tapping into and leveraging differently. Kashana, from your perspective, has one or more played a stronger role, or similar to Takara, have they both sort of worked in concert as you've been going through your founder journey?
I feel like they've been working together. I also work full time. Like, I'm a full-time person too. So I'm playing like in both sections. And I find like more on the founder side, it's like I'll have people like Helen, who like Helen will advocate for me whenever she can. So that I see her as like a sponsor, because like sponsors say your name and speak about the work you do when you're not in the room, right? And I've been very lucky to have people like that who they'll see what I'm doing and they'll be like, let's talk, like let's do something. So the advice that I would give is like sometimes you don't need to like actively seek them out. Like of course you can, but if you're doing your best and you're connecting with people in the industry, like there's a new app called Clubhouse, which you can connect with people from all over the world that are actually interested in different things and are experts in their field. And then you can like DM them and stalk them and all those things. But like with the internet, I feel like it's easier now to find mentorship and sponsorship, especially if you're looking for some that looks like you, whether that be like according to your gender or your race or your background or even your interest. So it's kind of like there's like a little extra work in it, but you also have to be like not necessarily, I don't know what's the right word to say, but you have to, like, you can't just have like a mentor or a sponsor and they're speaking about you and like you're not showing up too. Do you know what I mean? Because they're kind of using their reputation and their connections in order to help you, right? So make sure that while you're doing that, you're also putting your best foot forward and you are doing the work that you're interested in, so that when they do brag about you and it does loop back to you, that they can be like, told you so, instead of like, so sorry for that recommendation, right? So it's kind of like making sure that you're good for it.
I love that. Active participation. That's the term that I use. It has to go both ways. Marissa, what about your story? I mean, you've gone through this sort of transformation in this last year with your business. How has mentorship or sponsorship, played a role, maybe even before deciding to become an entrepreneur, and then as you're on your own entrepreneurial journey?
That's a great question. I think I've learned so much this past year, and often in helping others, we help ourselves and we learn a lot, and that's true for me as well. I think my first boss ever certainly advocated on my behalf. I also completely harassed her to get the job. So way before Clubhouse existed, I was definitely doing whatever I could. But, just to echo some of the points made earlier, through We Are Women, for example, we are offering grant and mentorship opportunities. And it's this idea of if you can't see it, you can't be it. And so through our mentorship program, one, we definitely want to connect early stage startup women entrepreneurs with people who have something to do with their field or their dream or what they want to build, but also the importance of having someone that looks like you, that's there for you, that encourages you. And then of course, like Kashana said, you've got to show up for them as well. But we're really focused on that through We Are Women. And I think the other thing that's come up, and I'm still working on, and so this is live, is as women, naturally, many of us mentor informally also. Even in our friendships, there is this feeling that we're mentoring one another. And so what can happen is when mentorship moves into entrepreneurship or corporate stage or anything that's more formalized, we often do it for free. One, because we're good at it. Two, because it comes naturally. And three, because we want to help. But it's still our time. And so we're trying to explore something through We Are Women as well, which is to say, if that woman was charging her hourly consulting rate, how much would she get paid? And it's not to charge the mentee, but it's just to have this conversation. Again, like Helen was saying, financial literacy. Women need to stop giving so much away and value our time and value our efforts. And so that's something that we're trying to work on as well through mentorship. And I don't know who pays for that. I think the corporate white males in some way, if I may say so. I'm still working on that, so check back later. But I think all of us really need to value our time and our efforts more than we typically do.
I want to kind of make a comment on that, and that was very interesting. And I don't know how many coffees I've been asked to be on for the last, 10 years. And it's always, do you have 15 minutes? Do you have a half hour? Do you have an hour? Unless I have built the relationship. And I think if you ask many people, I'm always open. I'm like, I do a lot on, like, my Friday afternoons are all full because that's when I book most people is after work. But it's interesting that I have noticed that they'll have coffees and they'll take all the knowledge from you. Tell me about, I don't know, Tikar, if you get like, media, like, tell me how I can be better in media or something, or, how do I get a job in data, so all these little tips. But then what I've noticed, and you can tell me how it is in your industries, I'm never invited to be their advisor for their startup. Like officially, here's some equity, or join my board, or be part of the beginning stages. And I've noticed that, I've been advising startups for years and I never ask. I'm not the kind of person who's like, I just want 1%, or I want 0.5%, or I want this, or I never ask. And I don't want to ask. That's not why I'm doing what I'm doing. Exactly what you said, Marissa, is like, I do this because I know if they can stand on my shoulders, I can lift them up. And that's all I need to do in my life. And but I'm always amazed when I can turn around and they're like, these are all our advisors. And I did the intros. And I'm just like, that's a nice pitch deck you got. And they want another 2 hours with me to go over their pitch deck. So I want to hear a little bit, if you had similar situation, because I might just be going crazy. Like I might be just crazy, like myself, going, am I not being added, or am I just being used? Or am I, how do I end up being on those boards? How do I become the advisors, official advisors? How do I start changing my cap table in life? Otherwise we're just not invited to those tables because we did all the work to get to that, but we're just kind of left out of it. So Takara, I know if you can give if you've had those experiences in the past.
Yeah, so I haven't had the experience with the board component, but I do get a lot of messages every day, Monday to Sunday, from people asking for like media advice, or just, wondering why they're not in a certain publication or something like that. I will say that a majority of the time where someone's upset because they're not featured, or I just simply don't have the capacity to like the time, it's usually men for some reason. Like they feel like they have rights over how much time I have and how much time I'm willing to give. With women, usually they understand, and I'm not sure if that's because they themselves are juggling multiple roles and multiple responsibilities. But how I've managed that with people reaching out to me, and it's so interesting. People will be like, don't you want to like give back to the tech community? And I'll be like, I run a nonprofit where we provide things for free to everyone. Like we provide free food, free courses, free classes. You shaming me to get my time is not the right way to do this. But what I've found really helpful for myself is that I will allocate a certain amount of hours per month for coffees. So I have 15 hours a month. First come, first serve. If it's filled up within the first week, then that means you can contact me again the next month and see what my availability is. But I realized that if you just don't set boundaries, you yourself will just, completely burn out. And it's not, and then at the end of the day, it's not helping anyone. So I just try to set firm boundaries. And if people don't respect those boundaries, then I really feel they won't listen to any advice I have to say in the end. And it won't do any of us any real good at the end of the day.
Yeah, you're right. The boundaries are really important. Marissa, any comments about the coffees or the getting asked further, or any comments on your side?
Yeah, absolutely. And Helen, I'm so thrilled that you said that. And let's talk about it over coffee. Haha, just kidding. But, what I was thinking as you said that too, and I have a feeling that this is more skewed towards women, but I think that we're more comfortable to ask for 15 minutes or to ask for a coffee. But perhaps when the time comes to say, will you join my board? Will you be an advisor? Something more formalized. I think there also can be an element of hesitation because it's such a big ask. And so often, unfortunately, I think, and myself included in the past, we sort of like lead with fear. Like, well, what if they say no? Or like an advisor is such a big, important role, I wouldn't want to ask them. And then on the flip side, someone like yourself could be there saying, wait, why didn't they ask? And so there's like this missed communication where everything could be better for everyone. If only we didn't have these built-in barriers, don't ask for too much, don't expect too much. And then both parties end up with less than they wanted. And so I wonder if there would be a way to come up with a new language or a new framework, even perhaps at that coffee level, to say, if this continues, these are my expectations, or I'm meeting with you because I see potential in your business and I may want to be involved down the road. Here's a heads up. Or conversely, I know nothing about this industry. You seem really passionate. I'll give you my advice for 20 minutes. And beyond that, I wish you the best. I think maybe there needs to be a different language and a different framework so that everyone's happy, however long that journey down the road is.
Yeah, that's good. It's good. It's putting it out there, but then you notice who they have chosen to put on advisors, and then anyways, you'll notice that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that. Yeah, I'd love to talk to you about that another time because that's really interesting.
Kashana, any on the coffee? I know you get a lot, and I know because of the leadership you do, of course, you get a lot of coffees, and I bet it is 9, what is it, like from 8 to 12 o'clock at midnight, just like Takara's time, Monday to Sunday, all the time. Everyone wants your time. Any comments on that?
I would say for me, like it's mostly trying to figure out like their educational pathways with different schools, which then it's like I almost become an ambassador for these schools. Meanwhile, like I'm not getting any support from these schools either. So it's like one big cycle. And I'm actually not the best person to answer LinkedIn messages like in a timely fashion if you're asking me like career advice. So I always give out like my Calendly link is in my Twitter. It's 15 minutes. We're hard stopping at 15. Come with your 1-2 questions that we can talk about. But past that, we're going to have something more formalized, right? To make sure that it's efficient for both parties. Because picking my brain is not an efficient use of either of our time, right? And I feel like what's most frustrating to me is when you accept a coffee you go to the coffee and they have nothing prepared. They don't even know what they want to ask you. That it's like, okay, so you were able to like secure this meeting and you don't even have like 3 questions lined up. Like that is for me, that's the faux pas. Like you should have some lined up so then we can properly use your time, right? Because we're not just gonna have coffee and I'm gonna tell you about like my whole life or anything. Like I want to make sure that it's really helpful to you as well, or else it's like it's 15 minutes gone to waste.
I just to add to that thing, I will also say when people don't do their research, so sometimes I've gone for coffee and people will be like, so like what school did you go to? And a quick Google search could tell you all of that information. And then it doesn't help you after like, the 15 minutes progress in your career or your academic life because we didn't get to anything that the average person online couldn't have found. So that's one more thing too.
Yeah, and also like if you requested to meet with me, I would have hoped that you did like a LinkedIn quick review. So it shouldn't be like tell me about yourself and like what companies have you worked at and like what do you do. And I've also had like a case where like someone didn't even know about Toronto Women X in Data Science, and I was like, that is confusing to me because it's a quick search, right? Like it's a quick search, and then it's like I'm having to explain everything. Which is frustrating for me because of course you want to give back, but at the same time you're like, is this going to be a waste of both of our times?
Yeah, one of your 3 questions shouldn't be where did you go to school. That's not if the genie's giving you 3 wishes, I would not use that as one of them. We do have a question from one of our attendees. Kate's going to take you off mute if you want to share your question or comment with the panel. We'd love to hear from you, and also introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Olu, and I'm calling from Regina. I wanted to just thank you from Saskatchewan. I've been following since Monday. Thank you, guys. Helen, you've been doing a fantastic, bringing subject matter experts. It's wonderful. It's phenomenal. And I thank you, ladies, because this is much needed at this time of our lives in post-COVID and going forward, and even being female founders. What Helen mentioned, I want to say that I can so relate with it, in that as women we have this fear within ourselves. We see other women who have achieved a lot, like subject matter experts, and you're really quaking inside. If I ask, what would it, if she says no, it kind of puts a dent on your ego or your plans, and they don't want to go with that feeling of the expectations being turned the other way. So they kind of just say, okay, let me just get what I can get in terms of her experience, her expertise. But really deep down, they need people like you or other people who can be on the board, but that fear is holding them back. And I see your expectation, Helen, as someone who wants to offer. I mean, it's fantastic. This is like a lifetime opportunity that I'm seeing on this platform, where women are saying, I want to be on the board of your company. I want to be that shoulder that you can stay on to be who you want to be and be the best expression of yourself. And I want to be on that journey with you. But I think it's a two-way communication to say, yes, I'm gonna offer my services, my expertise to you. But if you're thinking along these lines, you might want to consider, if you want me to be part of your board and, maybe advisory, and that kind of, it kind of reduces the tension and the butterflies in the tummy of these female founders who cannot approach, because, it's like going for an interview and not knowing what to say, not, having that fear. So I believe that, you're a great person. You guys are phenomenal. Just help, these female founders. The questions are really inside of them to want to ask you for, these things. And when you come out to say, this is how I want to be on your board, or this is the pathway that I can be part of what you're building or what you want to do, then it helps them to come out, because truly there's that feeling of, I don't want to have a no on this journey. I don't want to have my expectations, dashed. I don't want to have to go home, deflated and all of that. So, thank you. I just want to chip that in because it happens, to me. I can tell you that I have been on that side, Ellen, of people who I don't want to approach them, not because I don't want to approach them. I'm just literally scared, saying, what if she says no? How would I feel? Would I feel lesser of myself? Would I feel lesser of what I'm trying to build? So I believe that it's a two-way traffic, and then the onus lies on whoever wants to offer help to say, hey, I'm here to help. This is how I can help, and then it lies on the other person to say, I want to have you, I don't want to have you, but at least you've done the most noble thing of offering that help. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Yeah, thanks, Olu. Thank you so much. Kashana, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I wanted to say something. So from my perspective of Helen's comment, so she is already meeting with them on like a mentorship level. So they're having these free coffees, right? And it's basically not moving to the next level of being a part of a board or something more formalized. So for me, like for example, for me with Helen, like we're going to start looking for board of directors for Toronto Women X in data science. Helen, of course, would be someone I'm going to approach because we already have that mentorship relationship. Do you know what I mean? So she would be top of mind. So to think of new people who you don't have a mentorship relationship with to now be on your board and completely not consider people who have been lifting you up along the process, that is the issue. And if they've been lifting you up and you have a relationship the whole time, it's kind of like, why didn't it come to mind to even consider them, to even be like, hey, I was thinking about this, what do you think, right? So from my point of view, I feel like it's like a faux pas not to consider like the mentors that are mentoring you and the sponsors that are like in the rooms talking about you before you go to someone who hasn't been there for you throughout the journey. So that's my
I think there's like, yeah, Kashana, like I think it's thank you. I just want to put thank you and stuff. Sorry, I think I cut you off.
I was just saying thank you.
No. I think it's also, and I think it's the issue is that I'm just seeing advisors because I see a lot of startups. I meet a lot. You see them, and I'm looking at their advisory boards and I'm looking at their boards, and then that like you're seeing no women on it, and it's a continuous thing yearly, like, and I'm going, I know that startup. I worked with them like over a few years, or I've known that woman who worked with them. Like, hang on, like, why are they not, maybe they were asked, they said no, but I want to see more, I just want to see more diversity in the advisor groups, and I want to see more advisors in the boards, and that's just all. Marissa, did you have a comment?
I had a question for you, Helen, and I think now we know what our next two panels are, financial literacy and getting women on boards. But again, going back to this, in your experience being in the tech industry, I'm not in the tech industry, do you find that like men in your industry have this instant ability to say like, yeah, of course I'll meet you, and also like, I'm available to be on your board if you get this funding, or if you take this, or I will nominate you for something or sponsor you for something, but here are my expectations? Do you feel like that conversation's happening all the time, or is it something that's unsaid and it just continues to perpetuate men on boards?
I've never been asked. So my other men who are, say, in the similar labs or similar contexts have always been asked. Like, I'll do the intro. Sorry if that's asking, if that answered your question.
But do you ever ask, or do you ever?
I do make a comment, if you're thinking about boards or advisors, I'd like to join your teams, just even just an advisor, so I can at least add to my resume that I'm an advisor on these startups formally, while everything's done informally right now behind the scenes. So you don't get that recognition, you don't see that unless you're their VC. But I know many professional men who are always asked, maybe because they've got better titles than I do, or who I've introduced. So that's been I'm not asking everyone to ask me. This is not like, but I just like, it's that, like how Kashana said, it's that formal. But I'm wondering, and this is why it's a great panel, I am wondering if this is happening to other women. And this is why we don't have the women on the boards, maybe because they're not high status enough, maybe because we already get free time with them. Why would we give them more? They already say yes, they already do our beds and our kitchen stuff, and we already take care of their parents, and they already do all this other stuff. They already give us free time. Why add them? We already get it for free.
I think that's such a really important point that you just mentioned, Helen, which is that I find that some of the most giving people in the tech community are women or BIPOC. And so we provide these resources and this type of time for free, whereas perhaps there are other individuals who say, my time is worth something, so I need something in return for it. I need a title if I'm going to give you X amount of hours over the next year. And it's not saying that, either, path is right or wrong, but women and BIPOC understand that in order to change things, we need to do the work, and we put the onus on us to always give away free time, which again, I do not think is fair. And I think speaks volumes to what you were saying about how perhaps when it comes to official status and titles, it's a majority of men represented.
I also wanted to add, I think maybe being generous is working against us, because being so generous, it has the value of our time at zero when that is a lie. So maybe, Helen, it's like you have 15-minute slots, anything besides that comes with a fee. But you need to start somewhere where it's like, please recognize the track record that I have, the journey that I have, the value that I'd be adding. Not necessarily to say like I need to be on your board or anything, but you need to value my time, and like that's it. So I think maybe it's because we don't put a price tag on it, and people react well to prices, right? Like it's just normal economics. If they see a price, they're like, oh, there's like some value there. So like we might start charging for coffee chats after this.
New business model right there. We're touching, I love where this conversation's going, because we're touching on sort of the uncomfortable underbelly of a lot of this. And I've heard some words that really talk to the more emotional side of this experience. Olu, you mentioned fear. Takara, you talked about shame. Kashana, we're talking about value and what value means, this assumption for women that we should be generous, compliant, dates back to hundreds of years of conditioning. This week, we've also talked a bit about imposter syndrome, and how in general terms, and I hate to generalize, but it's been demonstrated in research as well, that tends to show up more prevalently for women as well. Let's dig into this topic as well. If you feel comfortable, maybe sharing a personal story of, an encounter that you've had to overcome. How did you go about it? Or even if you just want to reflect and offer some advice to the audience, how do we deal with some of these biases and these emotions? And I think shame is an important one to comment on, because it requires a lot of vulnerability for us to put ourselves forward. To put a price tag on our time is by nature, I think, uncomfortable for a lot of women, because we feel like we need to do it. Marissa, why don't we start with you if you have any comment on this space?
Sure, I will. And because this is such an incredible group, I don't mind sharing this, but right now, for the last 6 to 8 weeks, I have been privately fundraising for my business. And I don't see any male faces. So anyway, I know this is recorded, but I literally have a sign on my board that says, may you have the confidence of a mediocre white male. Now, there are terrific white males out there. This is not to shame men. I saw this on Instagram and I thought it was great. But it goes back to this thing of, if we're not friendly females that give our time away for free, are we bad? Are we not worthy? Why is it that when a man has an idea and a woman has an idea and it's time to go raise capital, we undervalue ourselves as per market, and men overvalue, and men get it? I mean, thank goodness we're now seeing, women VCs. We are now starting slowly to see more women on boards and in professional capacities. But I think, why is there this feeling consciously or subconsciously that we shouldn't ask for too much? Even if it's not a thought in your head, are we subconsciously programmed to think that we should be nice and friendly and ask for something that seems fair? Like, what is that when all of our male counterparts are saying, I have an idea, it's valued at 10 million and you can invest and I'll think about taking your money. I mean, I dream of a world where women say, our value is here. And the truth is, we know this from statistics, we know this from the numbers, women outperform men. We do more with less capital with our businesses. We work harder, we make more revenue, we provide more value. And so why at that inception seed stage are we so, worried, nervous, fearful, shamed to ask for more when we know we can deliver? So I'm reminding myself daily as I have these conversations, and I think there's a growing public conversation about women's value, and it's come up in this chat, and I'm so glad. And may we all ask for millions and billions and get it.
I'm rooting for you. I love that confidence.
Thank you.
It's important because I think a lot of us probably also carry that weight of that baggage. Whether it's our own, we often inflict it on ourselves. We feel it from, our peers, sometimes intentionally, sometimes not. And it's a lot to say that I'm going to be as confident, as whomever this other person is that we feel like we need to compete with on a regular basis. Takara, please share a bit of your own experience in this area.
Yeah, so for me personally, there aren't many women in tech in general who cover from a journalistic perspective. There aren't many women who cover tech and business in general. And then there are definitely only a handful of Black women who cover tech, around the globe working for major publications. So when I started, there was definitely some of that imposter syndrome, that unease entering certain spaces. But I think how I really got over that is the fact that there are women and there are people doing my job, perhaps not in Canada at the same level, but around the world. So I look to them to see how they've managed to deal with the stress, the exclusion, racism, and try and model myself after them. And it really helps to see that there's someone who's done it before me and has succeeded. That's kind of how I manage, those moments of, despair or, confusion. They really, really help at the end of the day. And then, last but definitely not least, I have to remind myself that I am here for a reason. No one gives a woman a job as a charity, or, someone who's BIPOC as charity. We have to work twice as hard, sometimes for half. So the reason I'm in these spaces or I have this job or I'm doing what I'm doing is because I am talented and I should be there. So you just kind of have to keep remembering and reminding yourself, which is sad we have to do that. But it's how I get through the day, the week, the year.
I love that. I don't know here's a little cheesy moment, but I don't know if all of you have sort of your rallying cries, whether if you wake up in the morning and you're just like, I do not want to deal with this day, or you're about to walk into a tough meeting, or I still encounter a number of scenarios in the corporate world where I'm the only woman present. And to add to that, oftentimes the only woman and also a woman of color present. And to feel the weight of that and then to also push through it. And I love the way you put it, Takara, to feel deserving of the space you have. And then lean into that emotion of I deserve to be here. My voice deserves to be heard, to start to sort of unpack and unravel this history and years and years of feeling shame, feeling like we have to question it and constantly re-earn it. Kashana, what about yourself? What have you encountered? What have you seen? Any words that you can offer to the audience?
I would say because I've run programming for women to get into data science and also like for some badass women who are already in data science, I usually have imposter syndrome to be like, okay, so I'm a data professional, but I don't even know half of what these women know. I should not be doing this. Somebody else should be doing this. Someone who's like more of an expert, somebody who understands like all the research papers that all these people have been writing. And then it reaches a point where it's like it's only me doing that to me. Like I haven't seen anybody else external be like, she shouldn't be doing that. Like she's an imposter here. And also just like knowing what my purpose and what like my lane is. Like my lane isn't to be like the best researcher in like, I don't know, AI health for women or anything like that. Mine is more to inspire more women to get into the space and more women to be data literate. So I don't necessarily need to have specific domain experience, but like if one day I do want to like make something or do special research, I could do that too. So I think over time I've been like, okay, yeah, I just started this conference because I literally wanted to go to a conference where I could watch women who were in data and learn from them, and just reminding myself that like, that's the reason I did it. There's no weight on me to actually be the expert. The whole purpose was to convene experts, right? To convene experts to show that there is more representation than is being shown at other data events. Usually the panels are mostly men and mostly white men, but I've been able to find more women to speak. So having a conference where like literally it's only females who speak at the conference, and each year I'd never have a shortage of speakers. It kind of challenges other events where it's only men speaking, right? Because it's like, are you not looking for diverse people to speak at your events, or are you looking and you're not finding, right? So I think it's changing more now because there's more diversity and inclusion conversations, which is great. But I've shifted from being like, you need to know all these things, to being like, this is your way to contribute, and like it is a valuable thing that you're doing, and other people see the value, so you can quiet the voices.
Thank you for that. I definitely feel that the laundry list, that we have to rank at an A+ AAA level for, 100 different quality skills criteria, and dismantling that and saying, actually, here's what I'm an expert in. And for everything else, I'm going to surround myself with all the other people that are experts in that. And together in the collective, will be that strong. And it's very true that, women feel the need to check every box and then some in perpetuity. So thank you for mentioning that. And I love the fact that you're not struggling to find women. This is amazing news for me to hear, because it's oftentimes that common phrase of like, well, they're not out there, they don't want to participate. And it's like, well, Kashana said, did you look? Because I don't think so. I'm going to hand it over to Helen.
I just I love when they always I love when people say we couldn't find people for the panels, or we couldn't find people who are experts, and there's enough of us. There's half a population, and there's a lot of women who come from diverse backgrounds, and who can be there. I would say we're at 1 o'clock. I know we're come to the end, but I really want to give everyone one more thing that they can put out into the world. I put something that I say every morning to myself. I say to myself, I am not afraid. I'm not afraid of being poor again. I'm not afraid of being single, I'm not afraid of not being a mom. I'm not afraid of being, anything. I'm not afraid. I've done it all. And I kind of want to hear what you tell yourselves, either right when you wake up or right when you go to sleep. What do you say to yourself? What is that statement, so we can bring that into our lives? Marissa, I'll start with you.
Not only do I talk to myself a lot, I also have a black marker, an erasable black marker, and I write on my mirrors. And I've been doing this for a while. And I think it's really important to write things down in places that you see them, as well as tell yourself. So I will write all sorts of things, some that I won't tell you. Some other ones include, I'm smart, I'm worthy, I'm good, I've got this, I'm focused, I'm in flow. Whatever resonates you know, with you at that time, or when you're focused and in flow, pick those things that are working for you and write them down for the times when you're not feeling that way. Because I think it's really helpful to remind ourselves, I remind myself, that every moment of every day and night, because as entrepreneurs, we're always on, that we're not always going to feel that motivation or that confidence or that determination. It would be unnatural if we did, yet we always beat ourselves up for the times we're not feeling that way. And so to one, say it's okay, and then to have these words to remind oneself. And life and work is scary. And when it's your own business, there's no separation. You are your business. You're everything you do. And so you have to be your own cheerleader. Go get that erasable pen, write on all your mirrors, do what you got to do. I find it very helpful. And there are many, many, many words. Perhaps I'll share them publicly one day.
Kishana, Takara, either one.
I would say for me, like, for example, when I'm working on Toronto Women X and data science things, and because I work full time, like during the week, so like my evenings and my weekends are for Toronto Women X and data science, I'm always there like, look what you can do with such little time. Imagine if you were doing this full time. So like, I'm trying to remind myself that's like, this is a piece of your life too. And it's like, if you can do so much in so little time with so little resources, imagine if you had what you needed. Also, there's an album, it's called The Manifestation by Chris and Teeb. It's like 12 minutes and it's just like affirmations to like hip hop beats. And I play that while I'm like washing my face, brushing my teeth, and like, I won't start my day until it's done. I can put it in the chat.
I would love for you to put that in the chat. I'm so interested. For me personally, I think it's just like two things for me. One is like, I just remind myself to set boundaries, because early in the pandemic, I just burnt out multiple times over and over again. And I just really have to like set boundaries. So I have, you know, at least every Sunday afternoon, like that's my time. I work out or I go for a walk or something to disconnect. And then the other thing, you know, I always like to tell people is that, you know, small gestures can have a big impact. And I think a lot of people, especially, you know, women, feel like they have to do everything in order to make a difference. But honestly, you know, just maybe volunteering your time for an hour, or, you know, taking care of yourself mentally or physically will mean you'll be better at your job and better at life and happier. You don't need to create a nonprofit like I did. You can do something really small in your daily life that will change someone else's life or their career path or their future. So I think it's just, you know, to remember that, you know, being kind or doing something that you think is small can have a significant impact on someone else.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all the panelists. Thank you to my fellow, to my co-host, Simran. And I really want to really thank Kate and Sarah from Dentsu, who helped put this together. They are the ones who brought all the resources. You know, this was just an idea a few months ago to say, I think we should do something. We really need to bring a community together. And then Kate stepped up. She's like, I'm going to get resources. She's like, this is something I have to do. She goes, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to go into my organization. I'm going to find a way. And then she goes, this is, so her enthusiasm, her want, her leadership really led to this. And then Sarah's like, I'm there, like, you know, whatever you need, I've got your back. So all three of us we really needed to do this. And coming to the end of the week, through, you know, hearing Takara, hearing, you know, Kishana, hearing Marissa, hearing Simran, hearing all of you and all of your comments, I feel really supported, and thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, Helen, you've been an amazing partner in this too, and it certainly could not have been done without not only your enthusiasm, but just all the energy and people and panelists and connections and ideas and thoughts that have brought this all together. So thank you. And thank you to the panelists.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everyone, for putting this together, especially like right now. It's not easy to do things virtually. So thank you all for doing everything and bringing us together.
Absolutely.
Thank you everyone so much. It was an honor to be here. I feel like we're all friends. I can't wait till we're in a room together, tequila or no tequila. Thank you everyone so much.
No, it's been an amazing week, and I've felt a deep sense of connection to a lot of amazing women. And I think the biggest thing is that this is just the beginning, right? I've been taking furious notes all week, and I think we already have some topics in mind for what we can do next. So stay tuned as we continue on in this journey together. So thanks, everyone.